capacity crowd is gathered in Flemington as the TNT Monster Trucks prepare for side-by-side racing coming up next. This is Trucks and Tractor Power, featuring the all-stars of TNT's Monster Truck Challenge. Welcome to Trucks and Tractor Power on the Nashville Network. Today we come to you from one of the oldest racetracks in the country. Hi everybody, I'm Gary Lee alongside Army Armstrong. The Flemington Speedway has been around for 74 years.
And this track is notorious for its world-famous big block modified racing, but these people are going to get to see a racing of a different color tonight, Gary. They get to see the big monster trucks as they make their one-year stop in New Jersey. Plus, they're still going to get to see some of these awesome modifieds, and we're looking forward to seeing some of those guys.
And of course, when we talk about monster trucks, we talk about all the stars of the game. Bigfoot, USA 1, and of course, the popular Grave Digger. It's all coming up next on Trucks and Tractor Power. The serene New Jersey countryside, not far from Flemington Speedway, where we are tonight for Trucks and Tractor Power side-by-side monster truck competition. It is dusk here in Flemington, New Jersey. The fast qualifier is Bigfoot. Qualifications now complete. And in first round competition, Bigfoot against Dave Wyzorek in Nightlife. This is a Chevrolet truck that Dave designed, built, painted, and lettered, and also drives. And he goes up against the legendary Bigfoot 8 with Andy Brass. Here's Army.
Well, Andy, each monster truck has its own handling characteristics. Explain the driving style you're going to have to use with the new cantilever suspension number 8.
Well, like you say, the cantilever suspension does make the truck handle a whole lot different. Driving this truck as compared to, say, driving number 4, which I run last year, is like driving all over. You know, this truck, it transfers the weight from the front to the rear. When you first take off the line, the truck it will lift the front wheels off, and the front body will raise almost 2 feet above, where I almost have to look through the floorboard to see where I'm going.
That's almost like a drag racer, what you're explaining to me. When it leaves the starting line, this 12,000-pound vehicle leaves like a drag car?
Yes, it will. This truck, like you say, it will actually lift the front wheels and carry them. You know, I've been doing it depending on what gear I take off in, you know, or what gearing I'm choosing for that track that night. This truck is capable of carrying the front wheels anywhere from a foot off the ground for the first 40 feet.
Well, on this circuit, they simply call it Foot. And Foot in round 1 going against Dave Wyzorek in the Nightlife. And it's all Bigfoot. It's all Foot.
That was a quick run. Another terminology they use on the truck, they say that lands like a wet sponge, Gary. It just actually absorbs the impact. When he goes straight, he goes quick. Look at this.
Well, he got the whole shot. He was all Andy Brass, and Bigfoot will advance.
Andy, the truck is making it look easy, but I was watching you on that run, and you are just working your heart out up in there driving this thing. It's going straight, but you're driving it straight, aren't you?
Yes, it is. You know, as you notice, we've had a lot of problems with it driving. You know, we've made some changes today on the truck, and Donnie and I have been working real hard on it. And I think we got the combination back together. It's true that I'm having to work at it, but I don't mind working at it a little bit if it'll stay going straight.
And now we take a look at Scott Stevens out of Woodlands, Texas in King Crunch. We'll be listening to Scott on the in-cab radio momentarily. And there's John Kwasniewski, the Buffalo Tremor.
Gary, one thing interesting about both of these trucks, as far as horsepower go, I would say these are the 2 most powerful horsepower-wise trucks on the circuit. Johnny Cage out of New York, close to home, would love to put the Texan away.
And it is King Crunch, the auto value King Crunch of Scott Stevens.
You win? Yeah, what are you doing there at the finish? I was hanging it out.
Let's go back in the cab, this conversation with Scott and Kevin.
Thought he was playing Joey Chitwood there for a minute. Yeah, it sure felt good though. How'd the motor do? Was the motor all there? Yeah, turned 6 grand. I was too easy off the start.
Well, that should concern the opposition, Army. When Scott says he was too easy off the start, let's watch again.
Yeah, he looked like he made a real strong run to me. You know, those racing radios give you a whole new dimension to the sport when you can go right inside with the driver and crew chief.
Now, if we could just sell a ride alongside in the cab. We take a look at the wild hair, Marvin Smith out of Arnold, Missouri.
Marvin rolls up. He goes to the far lane. He goes against the Carolina Crusher, Gary Porter.
A pair of Chevrolets in round 1 competition. Gary Porter, it was so close over that first line of cars, and Gary Porter took the measure in that section, the dirt section between the cars.
Yeah, they call it no man's land between the two jumps. And the trick to this game is you've got to be straight. Notice how straight Porter is. Now all he has to do, boom, throttle up, go to the finish line.
Marvin had to roll out of the throttle because he was not straight.
Exactly. And you got to remember, these aren't sprint cars. These are 13,000-pound vehicles, and it takes time for them to react. Now, speaking of reacting, the red lights again indicate 100% for the Gravedigger. Steve Wilkie has one enemy in this sport. It is the Gravedigger.
Dennis Anderson.
This is definitely a rivalry coming up here for nothing else but bragging rights.
USA won a Chevrolet pickup truck, the Gravedigger, a 1950 Chevy panel wagon.
And the crowd's on their feet. Who takes a win?
Well, it looks like the Gravedigger. Let's wait for the official word. Yes, it is Dennis Anderson, the Gravedigger. Here's a look again. Now watch Steve Wilkie in the USA 1. He starts to bounce right here, and that gives the slightest of advantages to Dennis Anderson. Here he is with Army.
Good run, Dennis.
Dennis, you both came over here saying who won, who won. When you run down into that tube, that is just tough.
Yeah, it is. You know, it was pretty tight. I knew it was a real close race. And like you say, I really don't know who won. That's why we turned around and came back up here. And
this sport is unique in the fact that he can still be in this thing. To let a quick loser come back, that was an awfully good run he made. You may have to go against him later tonight.
yeah, that's true, you know, because I've come back several times a quick loser and won the race, you know, and that's the same with Steve. Their truck is running good. I've got my truck running good tonight. If I get up beside him again, I've got a little bit more juice under the hood. I just don't want to tear the truck up, but if I got to push it to the limit, I'll do it.
All right, let's see if a fan has a question for Dennis Anderson.
My question is for Dennis Anderson. How hard is it to control Gravedigger over the jumps?
Good question, Brad. The way I control Gravedigger going over jumps is when I'm in the air, I get out of the throttle. When I tag the ground, I jump back in the throttle. In between the cars, you just try to get the best shot you can going to the last pile. It's the only way you can win.
That's the way all of us drive the interstates here in New Jersey. We're coming back with more. Stay with us.